What is up, Lighthouse Middle School? How you guys doing? Hope you guys are having a fantastic Wednesday. Wherever you are, I'm glad you're there. Your leaders, your friends, connecting, having a good time, and a moment here getting to hear from God's Word and think through how it impacts our lives. Got quite a few announcements, actually, so I'm going to kind of blitz through these quick. Speaking of blitz, we went on Blitz just a few weekends back. Most of you guys went. It was awesome. I had a great time. I know you guys had a great time. Here is a quick little recap video that the Valley Church put together to recap all the fun that we had. Here it is. Go.
We have an actual God, the creator of the universe, who loves us, who knows our name, who said to us in this book of Matthew, if you want to connect up with me, I'll make your burden lighter.
So what's up, Blitz 2024?
Now, if you're thinking to yourself, that was so fun, I wish we could do something like that again, or if you're thinking to yourself, oh man, I wish I would have gone to that, that looked like it was a really awesome time, I've got some good news, because coming up in January, we have what's called Winter Blast. Winter Blast is our middle school weekend retreat. It happens at Hidden Acres every single year. It is January 24th through the 26th of 2025, so that's the last full weekend in January. I'll have more information coming out to your parents about money and forms and all that sort of stuff, but tell your parents, get it on the calendar. You're not going to want to miss it because Blitz is awesome, and Winter Blast is also just as awesome as Blitz is, and it's even a little bit longer. So you're not going to want to miss Winter Blast. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit more at the end of the lesson, but today we will be filling out a spiritual gifts assessment, so more on that coming later at the end of our lesson. We've got our Q&A topic for not next month, because next month is December, and we won't have a Q&A in December, but in January, which is a little ways away, I know, but the first Wednesday of January, when we're kind of hopping back into middle school, we'll meet all together, and our topic for this Q&A is spiritual disciplines. Now, what does that mean? Spiritual discipline is anything that we do to help us to grow closer to the Lord. It helps us in our walk with Him, to know Him, to love Him, to become more like Him. There's all sorts of spiritual disciplines. Prayer, Bible reading, fasting, silence and solitude, worship, serving, all of those are spiritual disciplines. So if you have any questions about those sorts of things, I'd love to answer the questions that you have about them. So you can scan that code. It's also at the bottom of your note sheet for this month. And yeah, January, first Wednesday in January, we'll meet together and I will answer your questions. Another thing to scan, we are hopping into a new series called On Repeat. So you can scan this QR code on the screen right now, or it's on the bottom of your note sheet as well. 28 devotionals, 28 readings. This will help you to think about what we're talking about this month, loving and caring for others by looking at Jesus' example. And that's something that we want to do not just Wednesday, not just Sunday, not just when we feel like it, but all throughout our lives, all throughout our weeks, to do what God has called us to do, and part of how we do that is by knowing what He's called us to in His Word. So, scan that, 28 devotionals, you can set a little reminder on your phone, it'll remind you, and you can grow in your walk with the Lord through this devotional, which is awesome. So, those are my announcements. We're going to hop into the lesson for this evening. So, like I said, welcome, the first week of this series On Repeat. And so the next 2 weeks, we're going to look at stories from the life of Jesus and talk about how we can repeat what he did in our lives. And what if learning to treat others like Jesus did was as simple as repeating a song you love so many times that you can recognize it within the first few beats? And there is music everywhere. From catchy commercial jingles to a new song from our favorite artist, we all have songs that play in our heads all the time. Have you guys seen the movie Inside Out, where the character Joy and then Bing Bong, they sing the Triple Dent gum commercial jingle? It kind of happens like throughout the movie. It keeps getting popped up. It's just like that. Some of us even take time to kind of create our own playlists where we can hear our favorite songs on repeat. And creating a playlist like that can help us filter out songs we don't want to hear and kind of create like the perfect mood. No matter what kind of day it is, whether you're feeling hype or chill or maybe in your feels kind of sad, chances are that there's a playlist out there that can help capture that exact vibe. And without the ability to curate our own list of songs, we might get stuck listening to any and everything at all times, which can kind of be cluttered and a little bit chaotic. And when we have a lot going on, that's kind of how our lives and relationships can start to feel too. From homework to friends and sports to plays, music classes, and parents, life can sometimes feel packed. And when we're overwhelmed, it can be challenging to be aware of what is happening inside of us, much less what is going on in the lives of others. And that is why it is so important to listen well. Listening to the people that matter is important. What does it look like to focus on the people that we care about? It's impossible to truly help others without listening to them. What if we're sick, and then we went to the doctor, and the doctor didn't even listen to what we were saying was wrong with us? How would they know how to help us? More often than not, we can kind of be like that doctor. We waste time and energy in the long run rather than just taking a few minutes to listen to people first. What would it look like to better respond to people by taking a beat to listen first? We're going to take a look at a story from the life of Jesus that shows us what this could look like in our lives. So, Jesus, of course, spent his life loving people. It's who he was, a source of love and care for the people around him. He saw people who needed help everywhere. He went out, he reached out to them to help them. And there are countless stories of how Jesus did this, and a really great one is about a man named Bartimaeus. So this is Mark chapter 10. If you're in this Bible, it's on page 628. If you're on your phone, I'm reading from the NLT, which is the New Living Translation. It's on the right side. You look for big number 10 and then go to small number 46, and we'll read through to small number 52. And it says, when they reached Jericho, Jesus and his disciples, and as Jesus and his disciples left town, a large crowd followed them. A blind beggar named Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, was sitting beside the road. When Bartimaeus heard that Jesus of Nazareth was nearby, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." "Be quiet," many of the people yelled at him. But he only shouted louder, "Son of David, have mercy on me." When Jesus heard him, he stopped. So tell him to come here. So they called the blind man. "Cheer up," they said. "Come on, he's calling you." Bartimaeus threw aside his coat, jumped up, and came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked. "My Rabbi," the blind man said, "I want to see." And Jesus said to him, "Go, for your faith has healed you." Instantly, the man could see, and he followed Jesus down the road. So while Jesus is walking through Jericho, Bartimaeus, who's blind, heard Jesus was near. He called out to him. The crowd around Jesus shouted at Bartimaeus to just kind of be quiet and let him go by. But that only made him even louder. He wouldn't stop until Jesus heard his cry for help and healing. Now, there's a lot of things that we could see in this passage about Jesus healing Bartimaeus, talking about how God can heal us, and how he invites you to share how you want God to help you. But there's another interesting part of this story. Jesus shows us something incredibly insightful about helping others. Did you notice what Jesus did once he heard that Bartimaeus was calling out to him? He stops and he asks Bartimaeus what he would like him to do. Now, Jesus knows, right? He knows that. But he takes a moment to stop and listen to Bartimaeus. Jesus' movements are always very intentional. So when he stops to listen, you ought to pay attention. He shows us that part of listening is actually asking good questions that allow the other person to tell us what help would look like for them. Jesus asked him about his need, showed everyone watching what it looks like to listen well. We can do the same. Jesus is asking us to press pause to listen to those around us. Now, listening is crucial when caring for others. What does that look like when there's so much noise that may distract us? And many headphones, like these pair, this is the Shelby and I's pair that we have. And this pair of headphones, like a lot of other ones, they have what's called noise canceling technology. It uses built-in microphones to listen to your surroundings and then cancels out the sound around you so you can focus on what you're listening to. It's very cool. I don't know, sometimes I'll like cycle back and forth. I'll like turn the noise canceling on and then I'll turn it off just to kind of see the difference. And it's quite fascinating, the difference in sound that feature makes. And it helps prevent your music from being drowned out by cars driving around or the sound of someone dropping weights at the gym. These noise-canceling headphones keep distractions away so we can focus on what we actually want to pay attention to. And in a noisy world, it is easy to get distracted. It's easy to miss the part of the track that we like, or that one song on the playlist that makes our head really bop. Headphones that cancel out the noise help us pay attention and not miss a beat. Sometimes, distractions can make it hard to focus on what's important. Jesus shows us that our love for others can act like noise-canceling headphones. As we learn to love like Jesus and engage with our world as he did, it filters out the noise so we can pay attention to how we can love the people in our lives on repeat. As we learn to listen as Jesus did, we learn to focus on the things that are important. We may hear how a sibling is struggling, that a community food pantry needs more food on its shelves, or a call to help address how a natural disaster affects entire communities. Jesus shows us that as we cancel out the noise and focus on what matters to God, we learn to pay attention to hear the people around us. Jesus shows that we can repeat what he did, notice others, and pay attention to what they need. And of course, what Jesus is doing here isn't like a totally brand new thing. He showed us something that God has been hoping that we would always be doing for one another. Jesus was living out wisdom that the book of Proverbs had been encouraging God's people to do centuries before. So if you flip back a little bit to page 407, if you're in this Bible, Proverbs 18, so you can for big number 18, and then you follow it down to small number 13. On page 407 it says this: spouting off before listening to the facts is both shameful and foolish. Interesting. Listening is a well-recognized pathway to care for others in the Bible. To keep us from responding in hurtful ways, the scriptures encourage us to listen and ask questions before we take action, speak, or react to others. When we don't listen before jumping in, we can do things that aren't helpful or maybe even make a situation worse. Even with the best intentions, we can accidentally hurt those we want to help if we're not listening to what they actually need. The book of Proverbs and the story of Bartimaeus show us how critical it is to listen actively, which opens us up to how people want to be cared for. Learning to listen before speaking takes some practice, which is great because Jesus shows us that listening is worth repeating. You know, this reminds me of a time in my life when I was your guys' age, so I was 13. And when I was 13, I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. You guys may not know this about me, but I have what's called type 1 diabetes. I wear a pump to take care of it. It helps me to manage this disease that I have. And I will probably have it for the rest of my life. But I had just got it. I had just been diagnosed as a 13-year-old, just when I was your guys' age. And I had a really wonderful youth leader who I had gotten diagnosed on like a Monday or Tuesday, and then I had youth group that Wednesday, and she had heard about it from my mom, and she took me aside and she asked me how I was doing. She asked me lots of really great questions, and I can't remember the specifics of that conversation, but I do remember that she listened to me, that she cared for me, that the hard thing that I was going through, it mattered to her because she cared about me and she wanted to follow Jesus well. And she listened to what I had to say. And that made a big deal. It was really, really helpful for me in that moment where there was some uncertainty and it was kind of a hard thing that I was walking through as a middle schooler. And when we ask questions and let others speak for themselves as Jesus did, we open ourselves to understanding them more deeply. Who are they? What is it that they care about? What makes them feel connected to God? Here are a few ways that we can do that this week. First, we want to listen to understand. Listening to understand isn't about just finding solutions immediately or seeking an opportunity to share everything that we might have to share. It's about hearing others and letting them share their stories. This may mean that maybe there's a bit of awkward silence after they stop talking. That's okay. Awkward silences are actually a great time to try and process the things that you just heard someone say. After someone shares something, practice waiting just a few moments before you respond. The next, you can repeat what it is that they have shared to you. We can help people feel heard and understood by repeating back to them the things that they've shared. You could say something like, "It sounds like you're having a really hard time with whatever they shared." Or, "Correct me if I didn't understand, but what I hear you saying is," before giving your thoughts, repeat what you heard them say. In addition to making sure that you are understanding everything that they're sharing, it can also help you to internalize and even empathize with the things that they are going through. And then after that, you can ask how you can help. And that last step is crucial if we want to love people the way Jesus did. It's as simple as saying, "Man, how can I pray for you in this?" Or, "Is there anything that I can do to help?" The last part of listening to others is asking what it would look like to come alongside them in prayer and help them with your actions. It's about giving them the space to verbalize their feelings, the things that they need, and their hopes, and then actually joining in with them in the places where they need help. And when we learn to stop and actively listen to what people need and prayerfully follow what it looks like to help them, it can make a huge difference in our lives. It's what we see Jesus do, because Jesus shows us that listening is worth repeating. Now that's the end of our lesson for tonight. But like I said, we're gonna before we kind of hop into our small group discussion about the lesson, we are actually going to take this spiritual gifts assessment. So your leader will hand this out to you. It's a list of 20 questions. And this is not like a right or wrong thing. The reason that we're doing this now, because November, December, phone's going off. November and December, there are lots of opportunities, oftentimes in church and in our communities, to serve other people. And it can be really helpful for us to take a moment and think through, how are the ways that God has gifted me? What are the things that God has given me? The skills, the passions, the talents, and how can I use those to bless others? So, we've got like a really big event happening in December called the Christmas Store. That's a really great way to get involved, but there's lots of ways to get involved in this season that we are kind of heading into. And so we're going to take this, and this is going to help you to kind of think through that a little bit. Think through, again, what am I good at? What am I passionate about? What are the things that I get really excited about? How can I use those things to serve others? Because that's what we're talking about here. When we listen to others, it's a way that we show that we love them and care for them and serve them. And so this is going to help us to kind of identify that in our lives. So we're going to fill it out. It might take you a little bit. And then, we're going to maybe discuss it a little bit in our small groups if you feel comfortable doing that. But this, again, it's just kind of a helpful tool. It doesn't mean that it's going to capture everything that you might be good at, but it's a really great starting point. So after the lesson ends, we're going to go ahead and fill this out and have a little bit of discussion about that. I love you guys. I'll see you when I see you.